I think I'll take this question first. I'll talk about this question for a bit, and then we'll see if the questioner still has a question about it. What of karma? Is it cause and effect? Does it ripen? This lifetime? Next lifetime? Question mark. What of karma? Is there karma? Depends on your point of view. So I'll give you a warning. The answer to this question: put your mind on hold. Put it in neutral, otherwise it'll go crazy. Okay? Just, park that baby, put it in neutral, idle the engine, and just relax for a few minutes. It's one of those seemingly small little questions that's sort of like a wormhole right into something immense. And so that's how I want to play with this question for a moment. As I said, is there karma, cause and effect? From one standpoint, yes. It all depends on your point of view. From one point of view, certainly. If you doubt that there is cause and effect, go outside and drop a large stone on your toe. And when you go, ouch, you'll see cause, stone, falling on toe, effect, ouch. Cause and effect. Argue with it to your own peril. From that point of view, there is cause and effect. Anybody that can't see that is blind as a bat. From another point of view, however, cause and effect is a game that appears to be happening, but in reality has no real substance to it. The truth is, of course, much deeper than cause, than effect. But the heart of this question is really the last part. Does it ripen? As if ripening means something. Does it ripen? Does it pay off? Does it get better? Do I get to be enlightened when it ripens? When it all pays off? The last two words. This lifetime? Question mark. Next? Question mark. My answer is, it doesn't really matter. Because here we are on this ride called life. This dance of appearances, one after the other, dance of experiences, one after the other. Life experiences coming and going, living and dying. And here, us being together right here, right now, is part of that dance. It's part of the coming and the going. And whether it pays off or not is of no actual value. It doesn't actually matter. In fact, the more you think it matters, the more you are stuck in the wheel of cause and effect. Or as the Buddha so aptly named it, the wheel of samsara. The wheel of becoming and begoing. And on the wheel of coming and going, the coming and going of this lifetime into the next, the next moment into the next. That wheel, to have consciousness trapped on that wheel, on that cycle, is itself suffering. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good things to be had in it. But if your consciousness is trapped in it, one thing's for sure, suffering will ensue. As sure as night follows day and day follows night. And so the great illusion is, will this cycle, which is its own movement. Your life is the cycle of this life, of this movement, of this wheel. It's your life. That's your life. Your life isn't your own, it belongs to life. It belongs to the cycles of life, right? You think you make decisions, but you don't. And when you make decisions, you think you made them, but you didn't. And always we're waiting for some dramatic end-all moment within the cycle. And yet there isn't an end-all moment because the cycle is cyclic. When you get to some end-all moment, it cycles back. You come into the great enlightenment and you think you're enlightened. And sooner or later, it'll be stripped away and you'll be more unconscious than you ever dreamed you ever could be. If it took you, theoretically, 10,000 lives to get to here, then when the cycles decide to repeat, you won't be one step ahead of here. You'll be back 10,000 lifetimes ago. You'll be back at the beginning. When the universe blows to hell, or heaven, depends on your point of view, fizzles out, it'll blow back into existence from the beginning, as if nothing ever happened. So as I said, this question is a wormhole into an immense view. An immense view that if you get it, not in your head, but if you realize it in your direct experience, is what brings freedom. Nothing else really does bring freedom. That's why I'm always encouraging everyone to abandon yourself to yourself. Because it can't be otherwise. However you are in any given moment is not your decision. You are the way you are at any given moment because it cannot be otherwise. And even if you fight that, the fighting cannot be otherwise. And if you stop fighting, it couldn't have been otherwise. And if you continue, it couldn't have been otherwise. So why not stop in the midst of your experience, no matter what it is, since it can't be otherwise, and immense suffering is generated from the mere thought that it could be otherwise. But since it's not yours, it can't. It is as it is. And it can't be otherwise. And all the wanting it to be otherwise won't affect it one little bit. But wanting to be otherwise is the way it was supposed to be for you, if that's what you're experiencing it. Does it make sense? Not even that can be otherwise. Maybe it'll all change in the next moment. Maybe it won't. So the suffering mind is always waiting for change, is it not? Always waiting for change, always waiting for becoming. And if it goes for the lifetime thing, it's waiting for the next lifetime, or karma to improve, or for one to be purified, or start making the right damn decisions, as if you could make the wrong decision. Rightness and wrongness is all a point of view too. If life's living you, what's the right and wrong of it? Don't worry, I won't leave you here. Although you may stay here. And it doesn't even matter if you believe this, because you live it anyway. And your whole life has been proof that it has been so. Things have happened on their time, not yours. Have you noticed? How many of those New Year's resolutions have you still followed through on? But you wanted to do them, remember? You wanted to do them. It was your choice. It was your decision. You wanted to. You're the ruler of your universe. You control your experience, right? You're the controller. You decide what you want, when you want. You decide what's going to happen, right? 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 And if that's so, why can't you turn your mind off like a light switch when you want? And if that's so, why do you follow through on some decisions and not on others, if they're the decisions you want? And where did you get your ideas of what you wanted anyway? Where did they come from? They arise in the brain, and the brain takes credit for them. Life puts them there. Life will decide if we act on them or not. This is the worst possible news for ego. There is no worse news for ego. Because it basically says, ego, you're checkmated, you're screwed. You don't get what you want unless life decides you get what you want. Which in that case, it just happened to work out that way. You're not the master of this body-mind. That's why it keeps not obeying you. If you've ever noticed. Except occasionally, 1 out of 10 times, it obeys. And then the ego says, see, I did that. I did that. The other 10 resolutions that didn't work out, I didn't really want those anyway, but that one, it's proof. There's all the proof you ever need that I am in control. We'll forget about the other 10. So even if you run into a stretch of good karma, you sail smooth for a while. Maybe a week, a month, a year, a lifetime, 10 lifetimes. Maybe you just sail smooth. Maybe you have mystical experiences with every other breath. Right? But everything is cyclic. So it will end, and it will start at the beginning. Your entire progress, evolution ends where evolution began. And then it begins again. And then it ends right back where it began. And it will keep going. And this is worse news. This is catastrophically bad news. Right? This is the wheel of samsara. It's repeating, it's repeating. If you get to the top of the wheel, if you're at the top of the heap, it's just momentary. So it would appear that we are all in big trouble. It would appear that way. But of course, like anything, it's always darkest before the dawn. And only those that allow themselves to go into the truth, regardless of where it takes them, even if it takes them into seeing the thing that they least wanted to see. And only those that will go wherever the truth takes them, good or bad, seeing what they want to see or what they don't want to see. Only those who will go that far, who have that integrity to follow it, come what may, no matter what, find themselves eventually in a seemingly irredeemable position, an unescapable position, a position that lets them know that everything happens in a cyclic manner. Human beings are great examples. It is said that we come in as children and we go out as children. We come in helpless and we go out helpless. And just at the point of complete checkmate, where it seems there's no escape because there is no escape, when there is no longer anything in you that's trying to progress, that's holding on to the wheel of samsara, thinking it has something in it for you. It's not a bad wheel, by the way. It's all your point of view. But at just the moment when you give up, waiting for it all to pay off, because you know it won't, because it's nothing but ceaseless motion, building up only to tear down, building up only to tear down, building up only to tear down. Just like everything else in life, even our bodies, built up only to tear down. Breathe in only to breathe out. Contract the heart only to uncontract it. So it goes. It's the motion of life. Go against it, you go against it to your own peril. So at just that moment, when there's an absolute acceptance of things as they are, what's discovered is right in the midst of this cycle of becoming, of the great adventure of you. Will you get enlightened? Will you make it? Is your karma good enough? Are you spiritually talented? Have you had enough lifetimes to make it this time around? Right in the moment of all that nonsense, as if any of it mattered, you stop. You don't get off the wheel. You stop fighting the wheel. And at the precise instant you stop fighting the wheel, you find yourself in the absolute center of everything. And where it's motionless. Where there is no becoming. There's no question of becoming. There's no waiting to become anything. There's no waiting for an experience, because that's on the wheel, and as soon as you've abandoned yourself to the wheel, the still point presents itself. And that's what they call getting off the wheel, but that's misleading to think you got off the wheel. Who wants to get off the wheel of samsara? It's life. Do you actually want to get away from life? Life's a pretty cool thing. I mean, it's a frigging disaster at times. But it also has a lot to offer. Do you actually want to sweep it away with one swoop of the old cosmic hand and sit there in outer space in emptiness and just sit there with a dumb look on your non-existent face, drooling and looking glassy-eyed? There's only one thing better than just going in circles endlessly, and that's going in circles endlessly knowing that it just doesn't matter anymore. up or down, top or bottom, left or right, in and out, good karma, bad karma, advanced, unadvanced, none of it matters. You've abandoned yourself to what is. And at that instant, you are simultaneously in the dream and out of it. Or as Jesus said, in the world, but not of it. In your character, playing the character's karmic destiny, which it will not and cannot avoid, and playing it from a state of inner stillness, the place where knowing it's all just a cosmic joke, in the best sense of the word. It's all for your benefit, for your enjoyment. And it only makes sense from the center. It only makes real sense from the center of things. Of course, when you get to the center, there's really no center. The center is everywhere you happen to be. So I've said before that ultimately we must become freed of freedom. We must become enlightened from our own enlightenment. Because when we think we've achieved the great enlightenment, we very well may still be on this wheel. We're just on the best the wheel has to offer. You know? But when you're the rain that's fallen on the highest mountaintop, the only place to go is down. And so you will. And so if we grasp that freedom, we'll be back on the wheel again. Freedom and unfreedom are intimately, freedom and bondage are intimately linked. But when we're freed from that freedom, there's no effort to escape anything. We've abandoned ourselves. As soon as you abandon yourself to this right here now, you're free. As long as you're trying to escape this right here now, you are bound to the wheel of samsara. And any reprieve is temporary. But as soon as the abandonment's been fool, you have to be sort of foolish. Then you're out of the wheel of samsara. Out of the wheel, off the wheel, boom, like that. But if you grab being off the wheel, your grabbing is more samsaric nonsense. So as soon as you're off the wheel, in the snap of a finger, if you really see clearly, you'll see that to be off the wheel is the same as abandoning yourself to being on it. As paradoxical as that sounds, it's just the way it is. To be off the wheel is exactly the same as totally abandoning yourself to it. No wonder people wake up about the time they stop fighting themselves. And no wonder people stay awake about the time they abandon the effort to stay awake. It's all paradoxical, isn't it? It seems backwards and upside down, but it's only because we're so used to living backwards and upside down. So I'm always sort of putting out hints about this. without stating it explicitly. Because when I state it explicitly like this, inevitably somebody's mind is going to get stuck on it. But what the hell, that's your problem. Until it's not. But just relax. That's another way of saying it. Be what you are. Don't resist. Don't try to get there. Because all those movements are the wheel of samsara movements. It's all they are. But if that's what's happening, abandon yourself to it. And as soon as you abandon yourself to it, you're free of it. Have any of you ever had a moment of deep, deep grief? The first time I understood this in any context, not in a big context, certainly like I'm talking about, but the little piece, tiniest piece was many, many years ago when I was in a moment of very profound grief. And I thought I was grieving because I was kind of crying and felt rotten and didn't want to be around anybody. So I thought, wow, I'm obviously experiencing my grief. I feel absolutely awful. And I was feeling this for days. And then one moment, actually I was walking in a shopping mall. I just had dinner at one of those mall diners, If that won't get you off the wheel, nothing will. So I just had dinner at one of these mall diners, and I was with a few people and, trying to not blubber all over the place because I had such a deep grief. And as I'm walking away from dinner down the hall, I just said to myself, that's it. I'm just going to grieve. And as soon as I was totally willing to grieve, this immense smile inside just said, whoopee. The grief didn't necessarily just disappear, but the grief was suffused with a joy, with a real deep, deep joy. That confused me. I didn't care because I felt good. To have deep grief and deep joy, and only because of abandoning myself to what was. And so whatever gets you there, to that abandonment, whether it's simply opening yourself to the beauty of the presence, whether it's experiencing exactly what you're experiencing, whether it's experiencing the profound wisdom of no escape at all. Only then are you in the world but not of it. In your character, as life is living it and moving it through its destiny. Like right now, this character, it's just unfolding its destiny. Right now, it's talking to you. That's its destiny right now. I don't know what its destiny will be the next minute, but I sure as hell don't care anymore. Because I'm not looking for anything through it, in it. It's entertainment. And it is profound entertainment. But I know if I got both my feet, then you're in the wheel of samsara. But if you're in it and realize you're not of it, there's stillness. There's a lightness. There's a joy. And so you have beat samsara by surrendering to it. Or this could have all been put much easier, like my teacher did. My teacher would say, samsara? Samsara is nirvana. That's the quick version.